Hello students, welcome to our online platform. Myself Engineer PP sir, your physics mentor. So students, today we are going to start our new topic which is magnetism. So in magnetism we are going to talk about what is magnet and different properties of magnet and earth magnetism and different types of galvanometer which are based on properties of magnetism. So if we talk about magnetism, then the molecular theory of magnetism was given by Weber. So molecular theory of magnetism was given by scientist Weber and it was later modified by Ewing. So according to this theory, every molecule of a substance is a complete magnet in itself. So if we talk about every molecule of a substance, then they behave as a magnet itself. So however, in a magnetized substance, the molecular magnets are randomly oriented to give zero net magnetic moment. So in magnetized materials, net magnetic moment is zero. So we can see from here that this is unmagnetized material and this is magnetized material. So in magnetized material, net magnetic moment is zero, while in case of unmagnetized material, they are randomly oriented, so they will have some net magnetic moment. So if we heat or hammer, then magnetism of magnetic substances reduces. So on heating and hammering, magnetizing properties reduces. Now see, if we talk about bar magnet, then bar magnet is, if we talk about bar magnet, then a bar magnet consists of two equal and opposite magnetic poles. So in a bar magnet, we generally talk about two poles. One is south pole and another one is north pole, which are separated by a small distance. Poles are not exactly at the ends. These poles are situated quite inside from the ends. So we discuss about two lengths here. One is effective length and another one is geometrical length. So if we talk about end to end length, so end to end length is known as geometrical length, and separation between the poles is known as effective length. It is L effective. So generally effective length, L effective, is equal to 5 by 6 times of geometric length. So this is the relation in effective length and geometric length. If we talk about a U-shaped bar magnet, so in this U-shaped bar magnet, effective length is 2r, and geometric length is pi r from here to here. So it is pi r. Now let us talk about few properties of a bar magnet. Then let us talk about properties of bar magnets. So next property is directive property. So whenever any magnet is suspended freely, then it stays in Earth's north-south direction. So it shows directive property. Similarly, we can say monopole concept. So if we talk about monopole concept, then we can say that whenever any magnet is broken into pieces, then each piece of that magnet behaves as a new magnet. It means there is no existence of a single pole or monopole. Every time a magnet is broken into pieces, then each piece behaves as a new magnet. So we can see from here clearly that this is a proper magnet which is being broken into small parts. Then each part have south north poles. It means it behaves as a complete magnet. So there is no existence of monopole. If we talk about two rods as shown, if both the rods attract in case 1 and does not attract in case 2, then B is a magnetic and A is simple iron rod. So here we can say that A and B are placed in such a way that in first case there is attraction and in second case there is no attraction. Then we can say that B is magnetic and A is simple iron rod. So we can clearly say, if we talk about testing of magnetism, then repulsion is sure test of magnetism. Always keep in mind, repulsion is sure test of magnetism. So this is an important topic. Now let us talk about next property of a bar magnet, pole strength. So pole strength is generally defined as, let us say if we talk about any strength of any pole, either it is south pole or north pole, then pole strength is defined as power or capacity of attracting magnetic substances by any pole. So the strength of a magnetic pole to attract magnetic materials or magnetic substances towards itself is known as pole strength. So whenever we talk about pole strength, then it is a scalar quantity. Pole strength is a scalar quantity. Pole strength of north and south pole of a magnet is conventionally represented by plus m and minus m. So if I talk about a bar magnet, let us say it's south pole, this is north pole. So pole strength of south pole is minus m, and for north pole it is plus m. So it is the general representation. It is represented by m. If we talk about its SI unit, then SI unit of m. If we talk about m, then its SI unit is ampere into meter. SI unit is ampere into meter. So it is the SI unit, and dimension is A1 L1. Dimension is A1 L1. Now pole strength of the magnet depends on the nature of material. So pole strength depends on nature of material and area of cross section of the pole, or your area of the cross section of that pole. It doesn't depend upon length. So it is independent. Pole strength is independent of length of a magnet. Now, magnetic moment. So if we talk about magnetic moment, then magnetic moment or magnetic dipole moment, which is represented by capital M, so it is defined as pole strength of any one pole, either of south or north, or in general we can say magnitude of pole strength multiplied by effective length between the poles. So it is generally, this effective length is taken as 2L, sometimes it can be taken as LE, effective length. So it is the multiplication of m and effective length between the poles. If you talk about its SI unit, then its SI unit is ampere into meter square. Its SI unit is ampere into meter square, or we can say Newton meter upon Tesla, and its dimension is AL square. If we talk about its direction, then it directed from south to north pole. So dipole moment, magnetic dipole moment directs from south to north. This is the direction of magnetic moment. So this is the general representation. This L is known as generally 2L, capital L, which is effective length. It is the separation between the poles. Magnetic moments in various situations. So let us discuss magnetic moments in these various situations here. So here we are given a current carrying coil in which current I is flowing in anti-clockwise direction. So its magnetic moment is M. So in this situation, in case of current carrying coil, magnetic moment is defined as M is equal to NIA. Here N is number of turns in the coil, I is the amount of current, and A is area of cross section, area of coil. Similarly, combination of bar magnets. So generally, if we talk about combination of bar magnets, so let us say that two magnets are inclined at any angle theta with each other, and their magnetic moments are M1 and M2. Then resultant magnetic moment can be given by this relation. M is equal to root of M1 square plus M2 square plus 2M1 M2 cos theta. So this is the general formula to find resultant of any two vector quantities which are inclined at any angle theta. So we have discussed this topic in detail in vector. Similarly, you can give its direction also by using this relation. Tan alpha is equal to, so its direction can be given as tan alpha is equal to M2 sin theta upon M1 plus M2 cos theta. So this is the direction of resultant magnetic moment, and this relation is used to find magnitude of resultant magnetic moment. Now we are given these three different situations here. If we say that these two magnets are inclined at an angle of 90 degree with each other, and these are having equal magnetic moments, then resultant magnetic moment is root 2m, which can be calculated again using this formula. And here if we say that these are inclined at 60 degree angle, then in this situation also we can calculate by placing theta is equal to 60 degree. And in this situation both are inclined in same direction, it means theta is equal to 0 degree. So in this situation magnetic moment will be maximum, and it can be calculated by using the relation M plus M means 2m. Now, revolving charge. If we talk about revolving charge, then concept of this revolving charge is, see, orbital electron. So in an atom, electrons revolve around the nuclei in circular orbits, and it is equivalent to flow of current in the orbit. Thus, the orbit of electrons is considered as tiny current loop. So whenever we say that electrons are orbiting in a given orbit, then we can say that they produce tiny current loops with magnetic moment m is equal to EVA. So in this situation, we can say that magnetic moment can be calculated as, we know that m is equal to NIA, I is equal to E upon T. So we can say EVA. So here E is charge of electron, V is velocity, and A is area. Or we can say in terms of omega, so it is E omega R square upon 2. E omega R square upon 2, or we can say EVR upon 2. EVR upon 2. So these are some relations, and this is equal to, m is equal to E upon 2m, E upon 2m into L. So where omega angular speed, nu frequency, here see, this nu is E nu A. L is angular momentum. So these are some variations. For geometrical symmetric charged rotating bodies, the magnetic moment is given by m is equal to QL upon 2m. So if we talk about geometrically symmetric bodies which are charged and rotating, then magnetic moment is given as m is equal to QL upon 2m. Here Q is charge, L is angular momentum, and m is here pole strength. M is mass of rotating body. So here we are given three different rotating bodies. One is disc, then ring, and a rod. So we are considering here in each case that these bodies are rotating with an angular velocity omega. Then in case of this disc, moment of inertia is mr square by 2. Its moment of inertia is mr square by 2. So we can say that its magnetic moment m is equal to, capital M is equal to 1 by 4 q omega r square. So q is charge of this disc, omega is angular velocity by which it is rotating, and r is its radius. In case of ring, we know that moment of inertia is mr square, so its magnetic moment is half q omega r square. While in case of rotation of rod, whenever we say that this rod is rotating about its center of mass, then in this condition its moment of inertia is ml square by 12. So its magnetic moment is 1 upon 24 q omega L square, because its general relation is QL upon 2m, and L we know that angular momentum, which is equal to I into omega. So QI omega upon 2m. Now see next, Bohr magneton. So Bohr magneton, value of Bohr magneton is given by, it is represented by mu b, which is EH upon 4 pi m. So Bohr magneton is EH upon 4 pi m, and its value is almost equal to 9.2 into 10 to the power minus 24. 9.2 into 10 to the power minus 24 ampere upon meter square. So it serves as natural unit of magnetic moment. So it is the natural unit of magnetic moment. Bohr magneton can be defined as orbital magnetic moment of an electron circulating in innermost orbit. So it is equal to orbital magnetic moment of an electron. Magnetic moment of a straight current carrying wire is always zero. So if we talk about a straight current carrying wire, then its magnetic moment is always equal to zero. Similarly, magnetic moment of toroid is also zero, because there is no effective length between these poles, south and north. So in both the situations, effective length becomes zero, hence we can say that magnetic moment is zero. Now see, we are given that, let us say we are having a magnetic wire of magnetic moment m, which is bent into these different shapes. So we have to find in each shape what is the magnetic moment with respect to initial magnetic moment capital M. So let us say if this wire is bent in a perpendicular form, then in this situation effective length between these two ends can be taken as, this is L by 2, this is L by 2, so it is equal to its hypotenuse, which is effective length, so it is equal to L upon root 2. So it can be calculated from here. If it is bent into a U shape, then in this case also effective length, so effective length will be L by 3. So in this case it is M upon 3, while in third case it is bent in a semicircular form. Then in case of semicircle, here effective length, this length is 2r, and our complete length, given length L, is bent in form of semi circumference, which is equal to pi r. So we can say that magnetic moment is 2m upon pi, and if we bend it in a symmetric form in a complete circle, then in this case south and north poles are coexisting, hence effective length becomes 0, hence magnetic moment is also 0. So this is a general pattern of question which can be discussed based on this general concept. Now see, if we talk about next concept, then let us say that we are considering to be cut this bar magnet into different pieces. So what we are considering here, cutting of a bar magnet. Suppose we have a rectangular bar magnet which is having length, breadth and mass as L, B and W respectively. It is cut in n equal parts. So this rectangular bar magnet is being cut into n equal parts as well as perpendicular to the length simultaneously. So in each case, if we are considering that its complete length is L, its breadth is B and its mass is W, then if it is divided into n equal parts, then length of each part is, let us say, L dash, so it is L upon root n. Length of each part is L upon root n. If we talk about breadth, then each part is of breadth B upon root n. And if we talk about mass of each part, which is W dash is equal to W upon n. So this is the simple concept. If a rectangular bar magnet is cut into n equal parts, then length and breadth of each part will be 1 upon root n times, while mass of each part will be 1 upon n times. If we talk about pole strength, then pole strength also depends on length, hence it will also be 1 upon root n times. Magnetic moment of each pole, so magnetic moment simply depends on pole strength as well as effective length. So it is 1 upon root n into 1 upon root n means 1 upon n times. So it is 1 upon n times. If initially moment of inertia or bar magnet about the axis passing from center and perpendicular to its length is m L square plus B square upon W. So here mass is taken as W. So moment of inertia is L square plus B square upon W. Then moment of inertia of each part. So in this situation, moment of inertia is also, see, it is L square plus B square, means it will be 1 upon n square times. So new moment of inertia I dash is equal to I upon n square. For short bar magnet, B is equal to 0. If we consider a shorter bar magnet, then its breadth can be neglected with respect to its length. So B becomes 0, hence L dash is equal to L upon n, W dash is equal to W upon n, and M dash is equal to M. It means there is no change in its pole strength, and magnetic moment is also 1 upon n times. So now in this case, moment of inertia becomes 1 upon n cube times of initial moment of inertia. Now see, we are given few commonly asked questions. Let us say we are having a bar magnet of length L, pole strength small m and magnetic moment capital M. This bar magnet is cut into two equal parts parallel to, or we can say that along its axis. It is cut into two equal parts along its axis. Then in this case, in this situation, there is no change in its effective length. So its area becomes half. In this situation, area of poles becomes half. So pole strength becomes half and magnetic moment becomes half if it is cut along its axis. Now, if it is cut perpendicular to its axis in two equal parts, then in this situation length becomes half, but each part behaves as a new magnet, so there is no change in pole strength and magnetic moment will be half f as length is half. So these are some commonly asked questions and this is simple pattern. Now let us see various terms related to magnetism. So we are discussing various terms related to magnetism, magnetic field and magnetic lines of force. So space around a magnetic pole or magnet or current carrying wire within which its effect can be experienced. So let us say this is any current carrying conductor. So any region, any space around this current carrying conductor, or let us say pole, or we can say magnet, in which its effect can be experienced, means in which its effect of attraction or repulsion can be experienced. Magnetic field can be represented with the help of set of lines or curves which are known as magnetic field lines. So magnetic field lines are simply used to give direction of magnetic field. So here if we talk about for North Pole, then magnetic field lines always travel. See, this is isolated North Pole, so these lines travels away from North Pole and towards the South Pole. So in general we can say, in general, so it will be away from North Pole this way and towards the south. So if we draw for a bar magnet, then in this situation these magnetic field lines will travel from north to south. Inward magnetic field is represented by cross and outward magnetic field is represented by dot. Now see magnetic flux and flux density. So if we talk about magnetic flux and flux density, then the number of magnetic lines of force passing normally through any given surface is defined as magnetic flux. So magnetic flux is what? How many magnetic field lines are passing normally through any given surface. So it is known as magnetic flux. If you talk about SI unit, then its SI unit is known as Weber and its CGS unit is Maxwell. If we give a relation in Weber and Maxwell, then 1 Weber is equal to 10 to the power 8 Maxwell. This is the relation in Weber and Maxwell. When a piece of magnetic substance is placed in external magnetic field, the substance becomes magnetized. So always keep in mind, whenever any piece of magnetic substance is placed in external magnetic field, then it also shows properties of magnetism, means it is magnetized. The number of magnetic lines of induction inside a magnetized substance crossing unit area normal to their direction is called magnetic induction or magnetic flux density. So we can say that how many magnetic field lines are crossing into through this induction area, which crosses normally unit area. So its SI unit, if we talk about flux density, then its SI unit is Tesla, which is equal to Weber per meter square. So Tesla is also equal to Weber per meter square or Newton upon ampere meter or Joule upon ampere meter square or volt into second upon meter square. These are different units. So you simply keep in mind Tesla and Weber per meter square. So this magnetic flux density, magnetic induction or magnetic field, these all three are similar words. We can say this is simply magnetic field intensity, So CGS unit is Gauss. So CGS unit of magnetic field intensity or magnetic flux density is Gauss. If we establish a relation in Tesla and Gauss, then 1 Tesla is equal to 10 to the power 4 Gauss. 1 Tesla is equal to 10 to the power 4 Gauss. Gauss is CGS unit of magnetic field or magnetic flux density. Magnetic flux density can also be defined in terms of force experienced by a unit north pole placed in that field. So it can be simply defined as we define electric field intensity in electrostatics. So it can also be defined as B is equal to F upon m naught. So m naught is pole strength of north pole. So see, what we can say that it is the force, magnetic force experienced by unit pole strength of north pole. So it is known as magnetic flux density or magnetic field. Now see magnetic permeability. So if we talk about magnetic permeability, then let us see what's its concept. Now see magnetic permeability. So it is the degree or extent to which magnetic lines of fields can enter a substance and is denoted by mu. So we can say that how deep or how penetrate these magnetic field lines can into any magnetic substance. So it is the degree or extent to which magnetic lines of force can enter a substance and it is denoted by mu. In other words, it is the characteristics of a medium which allows magnetic flux to pass through it is called its permeability. So simply you can define it in simple language that what is magnetic permeability? It is simply asking about the permission of passing magnetic field lines through any magnetic substance, clear, or through any medium. Permeability of soft iron is 1000 times greater than that of air. So if we talk about permeability of soft iron, then it is 1000 times greater than air. So here mu is equal to mu naught mu r. Mu naught is magnetic permeability of vacuum. Mu r is relative permeability. Mu r is relative permeability. So mu naught is also known as absolute permeability. Mu naught r is relative permeability. It can be defined as that mu r is equal to B upon B naught. It means magnetic field in medium with respect to magnetic field in vacuum, or in other words we can say that flux density in medium with respect to flux density in vacuum is defined as relative permeability. If we talk about intensity of magnetizing field, then intensity of magnetizing field is represented by H, and it is also defined as magnetizing field. So it is the degree or extent to which a magnetic field can magnetize a substance. So magnetizing field is what? Any external magnetic field in which if we place any substance, then up to which degree or up to which extent it gets magnetized is known as magnetizing field. So it is simply defined as, in mathematical form, H is equal to B upon mu. Its SI unit is ampere upon meter. Ampere upon meter. Now see intensity of magnetization. Intensity of magnetization I. So intensity of magnetization can be defined in two ways. One is, it is defined as pole strength of unit area of a pole of a magnet, or we can say it is magnetic moment induced in unit volume of a magnetic substance. Magnetic moment induced in unit volume, or you can say pole strength in unit area. So in both the ways we can define intensity of magnetization, and its SI unit is again ampere upon meter. So its SI unit is ampere upon meter. Now see, so similarly we can say that in mathematical form it is equal to small m upon a means pole strength in unit area, and capital M upon V means magnetic moment in unit volume. So it is a vector quantity. Then magnetic susceptibility, xi m. So magnetic susceptibility is the property of substance which shows how easily a substance can be magnetized. So it can be defined as easiness of magnetization. Easiness of magnetization of a substance. It can also be defined as ratio of intensity. So it can also be defined as I m is equal to I upon H. It means whenever we place any magnetic substance in unit magnetizing field, then its intensity of magnetization is known as magnetic susceptibility. So xi m is equal to I upon H. It is a scalar quantity and it is a unitless and dimensionless quantity. So it is a unitless and dimensionless quantity because I and H both have similar dimension and similar units. Relation between permeability and susceptibility. So whenever we talk about relation between permeability and susceptibility, then we consider that, let us say, any magnetic substance is placed in a magnetic field or in a magnetizing field to get magnetized. Then there are two magnetic fields, one is B naught and one is Bm. So B naught is magnetic field in vacuum and Bm is magnetic field due to magnetization of material. So here we can establish a relation which is equal to mu r is equal to 1 plus xi m. Mu r is equal to 1 plus xi m. So mu r is relative permeability, xi m is magnetic susceptibility. Now see, force and field. So if we talk about force and field, then Coulomb's law in magnetism. So similarly, as we studied about Coulomb's law in electrostatics, it is also defined in magnetic field also. Let us say this is a bar magnet. This is south pole, this is north pole. Here we are considering for two magnets. So let us say these two magnets are placed. Two magnets are placed here in such a way. This is south pole, this is north pole, and here again this is another magnet. Let us say again this is south pole, this is north pole. Separation between these two poles is, let us say, r. Its pole strength is, let us say, it is minus m1 plus m1, and here it is minus m2 plus m2. So force can be given as k m1 m2 upon r square. So it is F is equal to k m1 m2 upon r square. This k is proportional constant which is equal to mu naught upon 4 pi. So mu naught upon 4 pi m1 m2 upon r square. So m1 m2 are basically pole strengths of two magnets. R is separation between poles and mu naught upon 4 pi is constant. Magnetic field due to an imaginary magnetic pole. So magnetic field is given by B is equal to F upon m naught. It is the general definition. Also it can be defined as B is equal to mu naught m upon 4 pi d square. So as we talk about electric field due to a point charge, similarly we can also find magnetic field due to a pole of a magnet, which is mu naught m upon 4 pi d square. Magnetic field due to a bar magnet. So as we calculate electric field at axial and equatorial points of an electric dipole, similarly we can also calculate magnetic field for a bar magnet. Magnetic field of a bar magnet, because pole strength of these poles are also equal in magnitude and opposite in nature, means plus minus m. So we can consider it as a dipole. So this is at axial point mu naught 2m upon 4 pi r cube. So magnetic field at axial point is mu naught 2m upon 4 pi r cube. Here capital M is magnetic moment. And if we talk about its axial point, then at axial points it is mu naught m upon 4 pi r cube. So these relations are simply analogous to the derivations which we have studied in electrostatics. Similarly, here only symbols have been changed. In electrostatics, we used to talk about electric dipole moment, while in case of magnetic field, we are going to talk about magnetic moment, capital M. So it is the simple relation here. If we talk about magnetic field at any general position, then it can be given as B is equal to mu naught capital M upon 4 pi r cube into root of 3 cos square theta plus 1. So this relation is also analogous to electric field intensity at r theta, means at general position. So these are the simple relations. Now if we relate all the derivations which we have studied in case of electric dipole, then they are analogous to all the derivations in magnetic field for a bar magnet. So see, torque. So in electrostatics, we used to study torque as P E sin theta. So here P is replaced by M, electric field is replaced by magnetic field. So it will be tau is equal to MB sin theta. Tau is equal to MB sin theta. If we talk about work done, then in electrostatics, we used to talk about work done, then its relation was W is equal to PE 1 minus cos theta. while in magnetic field for a bar magnet, this relation is W is equal to mb, means P is replaced by m and E is replaced by B. So mb 1 minus cos theta, and potential energy is also U is equal to mb cos theta, which is equal to Pe cos theta in electrostatics. So these are some simple relations. Now another thing, whenever we used to talk about Gauss law in electrostatics, then Gauss law was valid in electrostatics because there was existence of mono charges, means mono charge or individual charge can exist, but in case of magnetism monopoles cannot exist. So we can say that closed integral B dot dA is equal to 0. It means net closed areal integral of magnetic field is always 0. Closed areal integral is always 0. So net magnetic flux through any surface is always 0 because there is no existence of monopole in case of magnetism. Now let us talk about few concepts associated with this basic magnetism. The property of magnetism is materials is on account of magnetic moment in the material. So whenever we talk about property of magnetism, then this property of magnetism is simply based on magnetic moment of that material. Atoms which have paired electrons. So whenever we talk about atoms of paired electrons, then in case of paired electrons, magnetic moment is always 0 because there is no separation between their centers of positive and negative charges. Magnetostriction. So the length of an iron bar changes when it's magnetized. So whenever we magnetize any iron bar, then its length will vary. When an iron bar magnetized, its length increases due to alignment of spins in the direction of field. This increase in the direction of magnetization, this effect is known as magnetostriction. So magnetostriction is simply what? Whenever any iron bar is magnetized while placing parallel to external field, then these particles align their spins becomes aligned in field or in direction of field. So length of that iron bar increases. Length of that iron bar increases. This is known as magnetostriction. Similarly, a current carrying solenoid can be treated as the arrangement of small magnetic dipoles placed in line with each other. So we can say that whenever we talk about a current carrying solenoid, then this can be treated as arrangement of small magnetic dipoles which are placed in line with each other. When a magnetic dipole of moment m moves from unstable equilibrium to stable equilibrium position in a magnetic field, kinetic energy by it will be 2 mb. So see, here whenever we talk about unstable equilibrium, then unstable equilibrium is known as theta is equal to 180 degree and stable equilibrium is found to be at theta is equal to 0 degree. So it is a standard relation which can be used in any pattern of numerical, either it is based on electromagnetism or in based on electrostatics. So in both the ways, in case of electrostatics also you can be asked positions of unstable equilibrium and stable equilibrium. So you should know that stable equilibrium can be achieved at theta is equal to 0 degree, while unstable equilibrium can be achieved at theta is equal to 180 degree. So whenever any magnetic dipole is rotated in uniform magnetic field from unstable equilibrium to stable equilibrium, then change in kinetic energy will be equal to twice of mb. Means here capital M is known as magnetic moment and B is magnetic field. Now intensity of magnetization is produced in materials due to spin motion of electrons. So whenever we talk about intensity of magnetization, how easily a magnetizing substance can be magnetized, known as intensity of magnetization. So it simply depends on spin motion of electrons of that atom. Now for protecting a sensitive equipment from external magnetic field, it should be placed inside an iron can, because in iron can there is magnetic field 0. It is known as magnetic shielding. So shielding means it can be preserved from external force. Now let us discuss a few pattern of numericals based on it. So I will explain one or two examples, rest you have to practice on your own. Now see, let us say we are given these questions. The work done in turning a magnet of magnetic moment m by an angle of 90 degree. So we have to turn or we have to rotate a magnet of magnetic moment m by an angle 90 degree from the meridian is n times the corresponding work done to turn it through an angle of 60 degree. So the value of n is given as, so we are given here two work done and we have to calculate relation between them to find value of n. So we know simply the relation W is equal to mb into 1 minus cos theta. So here magnet is rotated by an angle from meridian means 0 degree to 90 degree. So our work done is mb into 1 minus cos 90 and it is equal to n times of work done to rotate at an angle of 60 degree. At an angle of 60 degree. So in this situation this will be equal to n into mb into 1 minus cos 60. So by comparing these relations, mb is cancelled out in both the sides. Here cos 90 becomes 0. So here it is 1 and cos 60 is 1 by 2. So value of can be calculated from here as equal to 2. So our option number A is correct. Similarly, next question is based on relation in magnetic permeability and magnetic susceptibility. So you can simply use the relation mu r is equal to 1 plus I m. So using this relation, you can calculate this numerical. Now see next. So these are some different pattern of questions. Note down these questions and you have to practice these questions on your own. These are simply based on the formulas which we have discussed earlier. So I have explained 2 or 3 questions based on it and rest you have to practice on your own. So these are some pattern of questions based on intensity of magnetization, magnetizing field, magnetic field and magnetic susceptibility. Now see. Now see, the axis of rotation of our earth is called geographic axis. So here we are talking about magnetic field of earth. So if we talk about geographic axis, then geographic axis is axis of rotation of earth. Axis on which earth rotates is known as geographic axis and the points where it cuts the surface of earth are called as geographic poles. So poles are the points when it cuts the surface of earth. The circle on the earth's surface is perpendicular to the geographical axis and is known as equator. So simply you have to keep in mind, no need to memorize all the things. You should keep in mind that poles and equator are mutually perpendicular. Poles and equator are mutually perpendicular. Simply keep in mind this relation. A vertical plane passing through the geographical axis is called geographical meridian. So a plane which passes through the geographical axis of earth is known as geographical meridian. The axis of huge magnet assumed to be lying inside the earth is called magnetic axis of the earth. So if we talk about axis of magnetic field of earth, then it is considered that the axis of huge magnet which is placed inside the earth is considered to be axis of the earth magnetism. The points where the magnetic axis cuts the surface of earth are called magnetic poles. So the points where the magnetic axis cuts the surface of earth are known as magnetic poles. Similarly, magnetic axis and geographical axis don't coincide, but they makes an angle of 17.5 degree. So simply keep in mind always that there is an angle of almost 17.5 degree between geographical axis and magnetic axis. They do not coincide. Magnetic equator divides the earth into two hemispheres. So this magnetic equator divides this earth into two hemispheres. The hemisphere containing south polarity of earth's magnetism is called northern hemisphere, while the other is known as southern hemisphere. Direction of earth's magnetic field is from as to earth, means direction of earth's magnetic field is from geographical south to geographical north. Geographical south to geographical north. Now see our next. Topic: elements of Earth's magnetic field. So if we talk about elements of Earth's magnetic field, then these elements are, generally there are three elements of Earth's magnetic field, and these elements are declination, angle of dip, and horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. So we can clearly see these components from here. The magnitude and direction of magnetic field of Earth at a place are completely given by certain quantities which are known as magnetic elements. So magnetic field of Earth is generally explained on the behalf of these magnetic elements, which are magnetic declination, angle of inclination or dip, or we can say horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. Clear? So these are three components of Earth's magnetic field. So if we talk about magnetic declination, so magnetic declination is generally defined as angle between geographic and magnetic meridian. Angle between geographical meridian and magnetic meridian. It is represented by theta. So this angle is known as magnetic declination. So these two are given. This dark one is known as geographical meridian and this lighter one is known as magnetic meridian. So angle between these two is known as angle of declination. Declination at a place is expressed at theta degree east or theta degree west. Means we can clearly say that magnetic meridian and geographic meridian are shifted by an angle of theta, but in which direction? In east or west, depending upon whether the north pole of compass needle lies to east or the west of the geographical axis. Then angle of declination. So angle of declination or angle of dip, angle of inclination or angle of dip. So angle of dip is generally angle between net magnetic field of Earth and vertical and horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. So it is angle between the direction of intensity of total magnetic field and horizontal line in magnetic meridian. So this is the angle. This angle is known as phi. So we can say, let us say, this is the horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. This is the vertical component in downward direction, and let us say this is the resultant magnetic field. This is the resultant magnetic field B. So this angle is known as angle of dip. So we can say that angle of dip is the angle between net magnetic field and horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. Similarly, we can clearly see from here that if we calculate net magnetic field, then this can be given as B is equal to root of BV square plus BH square, or we can say that tan phi is equal to BV upon BH, or we can say that BH is equal to B cos phi and BV is equal to B sin phi. So these are some different relations. Based on this, you have to simply keep in mind this relation, that horizontal component of magnetic field makes an angle of phi with resultant magnetic field. Now see, magnetic maps and neutral points. So here, if we talk about magnetic maps, then this topic is not important for our competitive section. You can read this component from your theory book. Similarly, neutral points also. Now see, next our important topic is tangent law and its application. Tangent law and its application. So see, tangent law. Tangent galvanometry is basically based on tangent law. So this is an important topic if we talk about it. So whenever a small magnet is suspended in two uniform magnetic fields, so we are considering that a small bar magnet is suspended in two uniform magnetic fields B and BH, which are at right angles to each other. The magnet comes to rest at an angle theta with respect to BH such that B is equal to BH tan theta. This is called tangent law. So what we are considering, that we are placing any small magnet in two magnetic fields B and BH. So BH is horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field and B is resultant magnetic field. So this magnet will come to rest at an angle theta. It will be at rest at any angle theta when B becomes equal to BH tan theta. So this is known as tangent law. So B is equal to BH tan theta is tangent law. This is the relation. Now see, this is the tangent galvanometer which is based on this law. B is equal to BH tan theta. See what is given in it. See, in tangent galvanometer, it is an instrument which can detect or measure very small electric currents. So tangent galvanometer is basically used to measure small or feeble or poor currents. It is also called as moving magnet galvanometer. So in previous topic we discussed about moving coil galvanometer, and here we are talking about moving magnet galvanometer. Moving magnet galvanometer is simply based on tangent law, hence it is also known as tangent galvanometer. It consists of three circular coils of insulated copper wire wound on a vertical circular frame. This way, you can clearly see it from here, from its diagram. This way, that it is made of. This tangent galvanometer is consisting three circular coils of insulated copper wire wounded on a circular frame made of non-magnetic material of ebonite or wood. A small magnetic compass needle is pivoted at the center. So a small magnetic needle is pivoted at the center of vertical circular frame. This needle rotates freely in horizontal plane. So this rotates in horizontal plane inside a box made of non-magnetic material. So this magnetic compass or magnetic needle is placed in a box of non-magnetic material. When the coil of tangent galvanometer is kept in magnetic meridian and current passes through any of the coil, then needle at the center gets deflected and comes to an equilibrium position under the action of two perpendicular fields. So this is the concept of tangent galvanometer. So see, here are two magnetic fields, one due to horizontal component of Earth and other due to field set up by the coil due to current I. So here are two magnetic fields, one is horizontal component of Earth and another one is produced due to current flow in coil. So in equilibrium condition, B is equal to BH tan theta. So here B is magnetic field due to coil. So if we talk about magnetic field at the center of a coil, then it is equal to B is equal to mu naught Ni upon 2R. Mu naught Ni upon 2R, and number of turns R radius of that circular coil and I is current flowing through that coil. This theta is angle made by needle from the direction of BH in equilibrium. So this theta is angle made by the needle from the direction of horizontal component in equilibrium. So in equilibrium, we are considering that mu naught Ni upon 2R is equal to BH tan theta. BH tan theta. So from here, this I can be given as I is equal to K tan theta. So we have studied it in a general concept of principle of this galvanometer, that this current is directly proportional to deflection, means I proportional to tan theta. So I is equal to K tan theta, or from here we can say that K is 2RBH upon mu naught N. So this K is known as reduction factor. This K is known as reduction factor. So when theta is equal to 45 degree, then reduction factor equals to current flowing through this coil. Sensitivity of this galvanometer is maximum. So if we talk about sensitivity, then sensitivity is maximum at theta is equal to 45 degree. So sensitivity is generally defined as deflection due to unit current flow. The instrument is also called moving magnet type galvanometer. So these are some general concepts based on tangent galvanometer. Now let us talk about magnetic instruments. let us talk about magnetic instruments. So here magnetic instruments are used to find magnetic moment of a bar magnet. Magnetic instruments are used to find magnetic moment of a bar magnet. Find out the horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. Compare the magnetic moments of two bar magnets. So it is based on deflection galvanometry, deflection magnetometer. So this deflection magnetometer is basically based on this law. Its working is on the principle of tangent law. It's also based on tangent law. It consists of a small compass needle pivoted at the center of a circular box. The box is capped in a wooden frame again, having two metric scales fitted in its two arms. So in its two arms, two metric scales are fitted. Reading of a scale at a point directly gives the distance of that point from center of compass needle. Different position of deflection magnetometer. Deflection magnetometer can be used according to these two following situations. So what are these following situations? So these two following situations are given for this magnetometer. See, first one, 10A and 10B position. So arms of magnetometer are placed along east-west direction such that magnetic needle is acted upon by only horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. So these two situations are there for magnetometer. So here also it is not so too much important for our competitive section. So you can read it out from your theory book again. I am explaining this simple key point here. Deflection magnetometer also used to compare magnetic moments. So simply use, what is the use of magnetometer, deflection magnetometer? So it is used to compare magnetic moments of two magnets, magnetic moments. So compare the magnetic moments either by deflection method or by null deflection method. So it is clearly that m1 upon m2 is equal to tan theta 1 upon tan theta 2. You have to simply keep in mind this relation. And in null deflection method, we can say m1 upon m2 is equal to d1 upon d2 whole square. So here d1 and d2 are positions of bar magnets placed simultaneously on each arm. So d1, d2 are positions of bar magnets. And here if deflection is given, then tan theta 1 upon tan theta 2. So these two relations you have to keep in mind. This is based on deflection method and this is based on null deflection method. So these are two comparisons for magnetic moments done by deflection magnetometer. Now see vibration magnetometer. So in case of vibration magnetometer also you have to simply keep in mind these 2-3 formulas for your numerical section. So I am explaining you these formulas. So vibration magnetometer is used for comparison of magnetic moments. Magnetometer, deflection magnetometer and vibration magnetometer both are used to compare magnetic moments and magnetic fields. Here time period of oscillation of experimental bar magnet. So whenever this bar magnet oscillates here, then its time period is given by t is equal to 2 pi root I upon mbh. So here I is moment of inertia, m is magnetic moment and bh is horizontal component of Earth. If we talk about moment of inertia for this bar magnet about its center of mass, then it is L square upon 12. So ml square upon 12 is its moment of inertia, which can be placed here. Then use of vibration magnetometer. Use of my vibration magnetometer. So as we discussed here, that it can be used to compare either magnetic moments or magnetic fields. So we are explaining here both the situations. So first, determination of magnetic moment. So determination of magnetic moment. So the experimental magnet is put into vibration magnetometer and its time period is t. So which is given by 2 pi root I upon mbh. So it is t is equal to 2 pi root I upon mbh. So here this m can be calculated from this relation in terms of time period. So this is the formula. for pi square I upon bh t square. If we compare horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field at two places, if horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field is compared at two places, then it can be concluded that time period is proportional. Time period depends on horizontal component of Earth magnetic field. So t square is proportional to bh. So it can be compared using this relation in terms of time period. So at two different positions, time period will be different. Hence, magnetic field, horizontal component of magnetic field will also vary. Now, comparison of magnetic moments of two magnets of same size and mass. So if we are given two magnets of same size and same mass, then again we can say that magnetic moment and horizontal components are constant. It means now magnetic moment of inertia and horizontal component are constant. It means magnetic moment and time period will vary. So m1 upon m2 is equal to t2 square upon t1 square. So this is the simple concept of magnetometer, vibration magnetometer. Now see, let us see few questions here. So let us say we are given a question here. Two magnets are held together in a vibration magnetometer and are allowed to oscillate in the Earth's magnetic field. So two magnets are oscillating in magnetic field of Earth with like poles together. 12 oscillations per minute are made, but for unlike poles together only 4 oscillations per minute are executed. So the ratio of magnetic moments. So in this case you can clearly see the time periods are different. So magnetic moments can be compared by using the relation Td square plus T1 square upon Td square plus Ti square minus I square. This way. So place the values here. You are given time period. When similar poles are given, then time period is 12 oscillations per minute. So it is 16 upon 12 means time period is 5 seconds. And in unlike poles, 4 oscillations per minute means 16 by 4, so 15 seconds. So it can be calculated here using the relation. Then next is the magnetic needle of a tangent galvanometer is deflected at an angle 30 degree due to a magnet. The horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field is 0.34 into 10 to the power minus 4 Tesla is along the plane of the coil. So the magnetic intensity is, so magnetic intensity means you have to calculate B. So B can be calculated by using the relation B is equal to BH tan theta. B is equal to BH tan theta. So this is also a simple pattern of question. Now these remaining 2-3 questions you have to practice on your own. So practice these questions based on the formulas which are explained here. So that's it from today. We will discuss the remaining portion of this topic magnetism in our next lecture. So thank you students for watching the video. If you like our content, then please share this content to other students also, so that they can also be benefited from this material in your competitive section like your ICR NEET exams. If you have any doubts related to any topic, then as I discussed earlier also, you can directly contact on our app also, or on our YouTube channel also. Your problem will definitely be resolved. So thank you for watching the today's video. We will meet in next video with the remaining topic. Thank you.